Hello, and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar: How to be an emphatic listener to youth in crisis. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I am an international speaker and trainer on all things child welfare and foster care, a best selling author of several foster care books, and have been a foster parent myself. Indeed, over the years, my wife and I have welcomed over 60 plus children to our home and to our family. Children as young as 27 hours old and 18 years of age, and everything in between. And to be sure, we've had many opportunities to learn how to best help the children in crisis in our home by being emphatic listeners. Our goal during this webinar is to increase awareness of what emphatic listening is. You're going to increase your awareness of emphatic listening and how it can help those who care for youth in foster care. And you're going to learn strategies on how to be a stronger emphatic listener. Perhaps you've heard the term emphatic listening, but what is it? What does it mean? Now, make no mistake, one of the best things that you can do as somebody who helps youth in crisis, as somebody who cares for youth in foster care, as somebody who works with teenagers in the foster care system, one of the best tools you can have to help them is by listening to them in an emphatic fashion. But again, what does that mean? Well, let's look at what Gregorio Billikov said about emphatic listening. He says this, quote, "Emphatic listening requires that we accompany a person in her moment of sadness, anguish, self-discovery, challenge, or even great joy." Unquote. And again, thanks to Gregorio Billikov for this quote. Quite frankly, emphatic listening is a structured listening and questioning technique. You listen to the youth in crisis and you ask them a series of open-ended questions, and we'll look at that throughout this webinar. Indeed, emphatic listening allows you, the listener, to develop and enhance your relationships with the youth with a stronger understanding, of a clear and better understanding of what's being conveyed by the youth that you're working with. You're in doing so both in an intellectual and at an emotional level. Now, before we go any further, it's important to recognize what emphatic listening is not. Emphatic listening is not giving the teenager that you're working with advice. When you're emphatic listening, you do not say things like, well, I think you should try this. In my opinion, you should try this. You should instead focus on doing something like that. That is not emphatic listening. Emphatic listening is not explaining your own situation. But I didn't mean to say this. I didn't mean to do this. I didn't mean to do whatever. That's not emphatic listening. Emphatic listening is never correcting the youth that you're working with. So you never say things like, wait, I never said that. Emphatic listening is not consoling the youth. You do not say things like, well, you tried the best you could. You did the very best you could. You did the best that you were able to do in a difficult situation. That is not emphatic listening. But there are other examples of what emphatic listening are not. It is not telling a story. Now, when we listen to other people, or maybe when we're having a conversation, let's say that, when you're having a conversation with somebody, it might remind you of something similar. And you might tell your own side of the story. That's not emphatic listening. So you don't say things like this. That reminds me of the time that I did, or that reminds me of when I, or let me tell you a story about me. That's not emphatic listening. Emphatic listening is not shutting down the teenager's feelings by saying things like, don't be so upset, don't be so mad, calm down, cheer up, be happy, don't be so angry. That is not emphatic listening. In addition, emphatic listening is not sympathizing with the teen that you're working with. So you don't say things like, oh, you poor thing. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, that must be awful. Oh, I'm so upset by that. Emphatic listening is not interrogating the teenager. The teenagers that you're working with do not want to be interrogated by you. So you do not say things like, well, how come you did that? Or why is it that you did this? That's not emphatic listening. There are some other examples of what emphatic listening is not. Emphatic listening is not evaluating. When you're listening to the teenager in an emphatic fashion, you're not evaluating by what they're saying or by what they did. So, in effect, you do not say things like, well, you're just being simply too unrealistic, or that's just not simply possible. You do not evaluate what they did. Emphatic listening, finally, is not one-upping or trying to do one better than the teen. You do not say things like, well, that's nothing. Listen to what I went through. Or listen to this. Or you think that's something? Well, listen what happened to me. That is not emphatic listening. We thank Jaya Ramchandani for these examples. So, what is emphatic listening? We looked at many examples of what emphatic listening is not. Now let's look at some examples of what emphatic listening actually is. When you're working with teenagers and youth in crisis, when you're trying to help teens and youth in the foster care system, one of the best ways you can do it is by bringing tremendous therapeutic value to those teens that are struggling with their problems, teens that are struggling with challenges, teens that are filled with anxiety. Emphatic listening brings you that type of therapeutic value. Now, we know that the teens in the home that you're working with, they are filled with anxiety. They do have problems. They are facing challenges in their life. And when you listen to them in emphatic fashion, you are bringing therapeutical value to them. Therapeutical listening also allows the youth and the teen to solve their own problems, their own challenges, in the presence of a caring listener, you. Emphatic listening allows the person speaking, the teenager, the youth in the foster care system that you're working with, it allows them to hear himself talk. When he hears himself speaking aloud, this allows him the opportunity to have better understanding, to gain clarity about the challenge that he's facing with. And when he speaks aloud and he has a better understanding and clarity about the difficulties that he's experiencing, well, he's better able to equip himself in addition. So, how do you be a successful emphatic listener? Well, emphatic listening is like you as a mirror. You're sitting across the table or sitting across them, and maybe in chairs or whatever it might be. You're sitting across from them, mirroring what they're doing. It's as if the teen that you're working with is looking into a mirror and hearing himself talk. So why do we use Emphatic listening. Well, emphatic listening allows us to become more compassionate, more understanding, more patient, and maybe just a little bit more loving towards that youth. As we know, the youth that we're working with might have come from an environment where there was nobody listening to them in a patient way or a compassionate fashion. They may have been raised in an environment where there was not much positive examples of love or understanding. Emphatic listening allows you to do just that. And that is what the teens in crisis need. They need someone like you to be more compassionate, to be more understanding, to be more patient with them, and of course, to be more loving. Emphatic listening allows you to do just that. There are a number of benefits of emphatic listening. When you are an emphatic listener, the person that you are listening to, the youth, well, their emotional burdens are lifted. There's a sense of relief, if you will. Confusion and stress is relieved when they feel that others have heard them, when they feel that they have been listened to without judgment, when they feel that they have been listened to in general. Again, much of that stress and anxiety they're feeling has been relieved in some way. Those who are listened to, the teens you're working with, also gain more self esteem and more self awareness through emphatic listening. Now, perhaps you're one of those people who likes to talk rather than listen. Indeed, most of us do like to talk rather than listen, and that is another benefit of emphatic listening. We're able to express ourselves. The teens that you're working with are able to express how they're feeling, again, without judgment. As we see, there's no one-upping in emphatic listening. There's no sharing of conversation. There's no give and take. There's no sense of competition. They, the youth, they feel and understand that somebody is listening to them without judgment, without one-upping, without competition. The focus during emphatic listening, the focus is upon the youth speaking and being listened to by you. As we've seen here at the Foster Care Institute, and as you well know, youth in the foster care system, youth in crisis, suffer from a number of challenges, a number of difficulties, a number of issues. Now, put aside all of the trauma and anxiety the youth might have experienced before being placed in the foster care environment that you work at. It is a time of anxiety being placed where he's at right now. So many questions, so many concerns. Many times there's fear. Many times there's doubt, confusion. It is a time of anxiety being placed into the group home, residential home, therapeutic home, foster care environment. There's stress involved. Sometimes youth are coming filled with grief. There are feelings of loss. Maybe they're struggling also with a lack of finances because they're coming to an age where they might be transitioning or aging out of the system, and they have to be financially equipped in order to be successful in their adult life. So there's a number of issues that youth in care during these teenage years are experiencing. And they need someone to say, I'm listening. I'm here to listen to your concerns. And that's what emphatic listening is. I'm listening. So, how do we do that? How do we be the best type of listener to these youth in crisis? These youth who need someone to sit down there, be patient with them, be compassionate to them, listen to them in a loving, non judgmental fashion. How do we do that? Well, to begin with, Emphatic listening allows the person that you're listening to, the teen, to control the conversation and lead the discussion. You, as an emphatic listener, need to be attentive. You need to always be attentive. Never show signs that you're disinterested. Do not show signs that you're bored with the conversation. Do not look at your phone. Do not look at the watch. Do not look at anything else. You're simply being as attentive as possible. Emphatic listening allows you to ask open-ended questions that encourages more conversation. It is vital. It is necessary. It is critical during emphatic listening that you do not interrupt. At no time should you interrupt the youth that you're listening to. You allow them to express how they're feeling. During emphatic listening, you should avoid offering solutions or any type of premature conclusions. And during emphatic listening, you reflect upon what the speaker has told you. You do so by repeating what they said. It's very important that during emphatic listening, when you're sitting down and you're allowing the teen to express and talk about what he's concerned with, what he's troubled with, what he's challenged with, it's very important that at no time should he feel defensive. That means putting away the phone. That means do not interrupt. That means do not one up. That means do not criticize. That means do not minimize. You just are listening and asking open-ended questions to engage in conversation. Again, he should never feel defensive when he's being listened by you. Throughout the time that you're listening to them, the teen needs to feel that they have all the time in the world that they need, that they require to share information with you, to be open about what they're feeling and how they're feeling, and to be transparent. Do not rush them. Do not look at your watch. Do not tell them that you only have a certain amount of time. When that teen is feeling that he's able to share his concerns, his anxieties, his worries, his troubles to someone that's truly going to listen to them, he does not want to feel rushed. If he feels rushed, if he feels there's a time limit upon him, then he will not truly express his feelings. He will not express his frustrations or concerns. He will not share his anxieties with you. So your patience is so important. It's so essential and necessary and imperative. Again, at no time should you be looking at the phone or a watch or a clock. Allow him to take the time that he needs to express his true feelings, his concerns, his anxieties, and his frustrations. Give him the time to do so. Earlier, we talked about the importance of not being sympathetic, but you can show empathy. Now, you might have been there, done that, so to speak, but we don't express that. All of us, you and I, the people that we're working with, our friends and family members, we've all experienced our own challenges, our own difficulties in life. To be quite honest, the teenager that you're listening to is not interested in that. He's not interested in your own challenges, your own difficulties, your own anxieties. He wants to be listened to. He needs you to be emphatic. He needs you to be filled with empathy towards him. So do not share your own experiences unless he asks for it. You simply listen. When he shares something with you, you can say this: I get it. You don't say, I get it because I have been there myself, or I get it because I've done that, or I get it because I've experienced the same thing. Just say, I understand. I get it. One of the most important tools and keys to emphatic listening is asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions allows the youth to dig deeper. These open-ended questions can provide opportunity for deeper reflection, deeper thinking. Open-ended questions are not questions that have a simple yes or no answer. In truth, you want to avoid questions that have a yes or no answer. Let's look at some examples of open-ended questions. Perhaps at some point you may say this: how do you feel about that? What do you think your next step might be? How does that make you feel? How are you feeling when that happened? These 4 open-ended questions allows the youth to think about his response and to dig deeper into his feelings. Yet there's more to open-ended questions. You do not want to have leading questions. A leading question might be, and if you had to do it again, you might do what? Or if you were to do it once more, you would try to do what? Those are leading questions. Avoid that. Because when you ask leading questions, the youth or teenager is wondering, what is the best response I should say? Or what should I say in this? Or what sounds best to the person I'm talking to? Now, there may be times during the listening session where the speaker, the youth that you're working with, the youth that you're listening to, he might only offer so much, hoping that you pick up on some of his cues, some of his hints. In fact, you might have to encourage him to share more information. You might have to encourage him to share more details. And you can do so by 3 words. Is there more? Those 3 words can open up a well of new information and new sharing from him. If you feel the conversation may have stalled at some point, or if you feel that he's not truly sharing everything, then you simply say these 3 words. Is there more? We all know how important body language is. Your body language is so important to the youth when he's having somebody listen to him in a patient and compassionate fashion. In fact, your body language tells a great deal about how this conversation is going. As we mentioned earlier, the phones are turned off, the computers are powered off, everything's put away. You have eye contact with him. You're looking him in the eye. You lean forward. You do not lean back. You do not have your arms crossed. You're not slouched down. You're leaning slightly forward, showing him that you are listening and giving him your full attention. You have an open posture. Again, your legs and arms are uncrossed. You're sitting still in the chair. You're not shifting. You're not fidgeting. You're not picking at something. You're not looking at something. You're just sitting still, legs and arms uncrossed, leaning forward, giving full eye contact. In truth, nonverbal signs like keeping your head down, shifting away from you, or covering his mouth could signal that they're holding something back and that he might feel uncomfortable. When his head is down and when he's shifting back and forth or he's covering his mouth, it could mean that he's not sharing all the information. And that's when you say things like, is there more? Now, when he sits down with you and he feels comfortable enough, secure enough, safe enough does not feel judged or criticized by you, and when he shares some powerful emotional insight, expressing his anxieties, his doubts, his fears, his challenges, his concerns, he might say something like this: I am so angry at my family, I don't want to see them again. What you need to do as an emphatic listener is not to judge that, is not to criticize that, is not to one up him on that. Simply repeat what he said. So when he says something like, I'm so angry at my family, I don't want to see them again, you say something like this: You're so angry at your family. You don't want to see them again. Is that right? When you repeat back to him what he said, this allows the speaker, the youth, to see that you truly understand what he's talking about, that you understand how he's feeling. And when you do so, well, then he may add more insight. He might add more about how he's feeling because he feels that you're listening. He feels that you truly understand. He feels heard. Again, you repeat back what he said. One of the important tools of emphatic listening is avoiding solutions. You want to avoid solutions. Now, this can be difficult, but it is important. So avoid interrupting. Avoid giving solutions, even if you have the very best solutions in mind, even if you've seen this before and you know how he can best help himself, or you know how he can correct this, or you have just the best solution to what he's struggling with. Do not do it. Again, this can be difficult. What you need to do is simply listen. He does not need solutions from you. He needs to feel heard. He needs someone to listen to him. Now, at some point, he might ask you for a solution. He might ask you what to do. He might ask you, what should I do? He might say to you, what would you do? Do not offer a solution right away. Again, you might be tempted to give the very best solution to him. Do not do so right away. Instead, do this. Ask a question like this: what might you do if the roles were reversed? When you're listening emphatically, when you're sitting down and you're listening to the teen express his challenges, his fears, his concerns, his anger, his doubts, his worries, his anxieties, when you're listening to him in an emphatic fashion, keep your own emotions in check. Do not allow yourself to become emotionally involved. Remember, understand first, evaluate later. Now, there is the song a long time ago by Simon and Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence. Silence can be a powerful tool in our life. Sometimes listening means embracing the silence. At some point, listener, the speaker that you're listening to, well, he simply might go quiet. He might break for some moments of silence while he's trying to collect his thoughts. It might seem awkward. Long pauses might be an opportunity for the speaker to process their feelings, though. When he has those pauses and those moments of silence, he might be trying to better understand his feelings, his concerns, his anxieties, because he's been voicing them aloud. He's hearing them out loud without being judged or criticized. And those pauses might be a time of reflection. It might be a time where he's processing those emotions. Your silence during this time is a sign that you are willing to wait patiently, that you're not rushing him, You're giving him all the time that he needs, and that he is free to go at his own pace. Again, sometimes emphatic listening is embracing the silence. During those long pauses, just sit there and wait. Wait for him to continue. Now, to be sure, during these times of emphatic listening, the youth that you're working with, the youth that you're caring for, the youth that you have sat down to listen to, he's expressed and shared with you some important truths and information with you. He trusts you. Do not break his trust. Respect confidentiality. Now, solutions. Many times, he will come up with his own solutions. He will come to his own conclusions. He's expressed himself in a fashion where he's not been judged or criticized. He has spoken aloud his concerns and feelings. He has heard out loud what he's struggling with. He's been given time to process that. He's been given time and not been rushed to think about what he had to say. He's been given time, without being rushed by you, to come to his own conclusions. Many times these moments of silence gives him valuable clarity and relief. Now, after the conversation, the dialogue has been thoroughly exhausted. Now, it might be time to offer a suggestion. You do so by doing this. Ask beforehand if the youth would enjoy or appreciate your advice or suggestions. He might not. So you say something like this: "Thank you for taking time to share this with me. Would you like to hear how I might handle it?" He may say yes, he may say no. After the conversation is completely over, at the end of your time together, ask the speaker if he has any additional comments or if he has any questions for you. You might say something like this: "Hey, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Is there anything else you want to add? Do you have any questions for me?" Very simple. Again, something like this: "Thank you so much for sitting down and sharing that with me. I appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to add? Do you have any questions for me at this time?" After this has been concluded, there might be a necessity for another session together. You might need to schedule another emphatic listening session with him. Finally, thank him for his time, thank him for being open, and thank him for being honest. Hey, I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I appreciate you sharing some of this with me. I appreciate you being honest. Thank you for being honest with me. I know how hard this may have been. Emphatic listening is a crucial tool when you're helping youth in crisis. These youth that you work with, these teens living in this foster care environment, they truly need someone like you to sit down without agenda, without a time clock, without an alarm, say time's up. They need someone like you to sit there without judgment, without criticism, without storytelling. They need someone like you to allow them to simply share how they're feeling. For much more, pick up the book, The Foster Care Survival Guide. You can find this book and several best-selling books at the Foster Care Institute. Visit the Foster Care Institute at drjohndegarmofostercare.com. If you have not done so already, please follow me on Facebook at Dr. John DeGarmo, the Foster Care Institute. Follow me at Twitter at Dr. John DeGarmo, and email me with questions about emphatic listening or anything else I can help you with at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. Finally, I want to say thank you for listening to me. Thank you for taking the time throughout your busy day and your busy schedule to learn more about how you can best help youth in crisis. My friend, we are in a time right now where youth are struggling with mental health issues, where youth are struggling with so many challenges, where youth are struggling with anxiety and trauma. It is so important that someone like you take time to listen to them. I know you're doing that. You are a fantastic worker. Thank you for all that you are doing to help youth in crisis, youth in foster care. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.